So, everybody, welcome to the March 9th meeting of the Mountain View Computer User Group. As you may have noticed, I am not John Buono. John is off traveling someplace. I'm not sure exactly where. I suspect probably Florida. That's where he tends to go every now and then to visit his daughter. Barry is also not with us today. He is in the Pacific Northwest. He had a family emergency he had to attend to, so he and Lucinda went there. So today you have Mike and Carol. Yes. And welcome to Pi Day. It's actually not Pi Day. That's March 14th, 3.14. Today is actually 3.09. But that's okay. We decided that March will be Pi month. So if you care, there was, and I think there still is, some blueberry pie over there. And please feel free to indulge, because anything you don't eat, Carol and I will have to attend to later. Today's agenda, as usual, we will discuss MVCUG Business, if we have any. We will discuss timely tech topics, Computer Lexicon Term of the Month, which I'm not entirely sure I remember to put that in. And our main topic is file management, storage, and backups. We actually did this topic about a year ago, but it is one of our perennials. It is something that people really like to talk about. We may not be going into the detail that we have in the past. I kept this pretty high level because I want to answer your questions. One of the reasons we did this topic is because people were asking us about file management, but that was back in September, and I really don't remember the specifics of what people wanted to know. So when we get to that point, please, this is an interactive meeting. Please feel free to ask the questions. Okay, sponsorship. We offer sponsorship for these meetings. An individual or a group may sponsor at $10 a meeting or $100 a year. You'll get a slide during the meeting. We will post the video on the web. You will get a mention in Facebook, and just ask around or anybody that might use this for publicity. Perhaps something like another group that you might belong to. And speaking of, our sponsor for this week is our own Carolyn McLean, the Candle Lady. The scent this month is Sweet Cherry Blossom. Let its sweet floral aroma transport you to a world of springtime bliss. This isn't the one that you just gave me the other night, is it? It is. That is the same one. Our den smells so much like cherry blossoms right now. And you could shop at the URL she has there, or you could call her or email her at candlelady@cox.net. Carol McLean, the Candle Lady. Or you can text her. Okay, is there any MVCUG business anybody would like to bring up for the good of the organization? Probably not. I don't have anything. I will do a reminder. Well, I'll get to that part next. The officers of MVCUG, which are, again, pretty perennial. John Buono, our president for life. If you haven't heard the story, he made the mistake about 20 years ago of leaving the room for a minute during elections, and it was actually changed in the bylaws that he would be president for life, or unless he resigns. So we have John. John is currently the longest-serving user group president in the United States, having done so for, well, let's put it this way. I met John when I first took his class in 1989, and he was running the user group then. I think the user group itself goes back to around 85 or 86. So, yeah, John's been doing it quite a while. We have our treasurer, Carolyn McLean. And Carolyn, do you have a treasurer's report for us?
Our treasurer report is checking its $11.71 and $7.7 buddy. We're total of $9. One thing I just want to add on to that we are, just so you know where we're at, it's our monthly expenses are $65 because it's $40 for this room. You have to pay with a monthly expense. Plus, we have to have our website. It's other expenses. So at this rate, I mean, if you even look at this before the next time we'd have to do, we have 8 months of money in the account right now. There's Mike and I always provide Mike and I is very to just the shop. We provide the things at our own expense. So we don't even count that as an expense. So I just want to kind of keep everybody, kind of be aware of where we're at.
All righty. Thank you very much, Carolyn. Which is why we need that membership. I am Mike McLean. I am Vice President I'm just the Vice President now. Used to say Vice President of Windows, but we really don't do special interest groups anymore. We just do the lack of facilities. And also the membership is small enough that it's not really practical to do that. So I just kind of pitch in as John's helper, like today. And of course, Barry, our other Vice President, formerly of the Apple SIG. I tend to do more Windows. John says I do iOS, and that's because I have an iPhone, but I'm not really that good at it. Barry's the guy for Mac OS and iOS, much more than I am. And he also pitches in with Windows every now and again as well, so he is not unfamiliar with it. And we have our webmaster, Jim Emmons, whom we rarely see. Jim is appropriately paranoid about showing his picture or having any kind of presence on social media, and which is actually not a bad idea oftentimes, I think. But he is still hanging in here and still creating our website for us. We do have our website, MVCUG.org. As Carolyn say, once a year we have to come up with the money to renew that domain. So if you need information about upcoming meetings, you can go there. We also have several useful links. We have a Facebook page, MVCUG, on Facebook.com. And we will usually announce upcoming events and meetings on there as well. We also have our Google Groups email list. We adopted this a couple years ago after Yahoo Groups ceased operation. So we started this up. Contact an officer to become a member. That officer is me. I'm the one who kind of took that on. So if you're not getting emails that say that they're from the Mountain View Computer User Group email list, let me know and we will get you set up. One of the benefits of that is that if I come across, or John or Barry come across anything interesting, we'll usually post it up there. We've had a bit of traffic this last few months about that. Or if you have a question, please go ahead and send it up there, and we will provide an answer to you and the entire group. Because just like everything else in life, I can pretty much guarantee if you have a question, other people probably do too. Membership benefits. In addition to online resources and the fine company of everybody you see here today, we have a film and slide scanner for checkout. You can use this, you can check this out for free for usage. Also, John and Barry offer professional consultation discounts. And I know that their rates are extremely cheap compared to the commercial people out there. And if they can handle your event over the phone, they will do that for free. I myself don't do this anymore because I decided I'd like my retirement, and chasing around the county helping other people with their computer stuff was just not the way I wanted to spare the time after I fully retired. However, I am not above answering the occasional question. I just probably won't come out and reset your network for you. I'll tell you to talk to John. Yeah. Oh, the stories I could tell when I was doing that freelance. Membership in MVCUG is $25 per household annually. Membership year is September through August. As Carolyn mentioned, we do have expenses. This is our main method of defraying it anymore, that and donations. $25 per household annually. We are not proud. We will take any other donations you may like to give us. Membership year is September through August. Pay annual dues to our treasurer, Carolyn McLean. A couple ways you can do that. You can mail us a check made out to MVCUG, and that is our address there. Or you can use PayPal and use Carolyn's email address there at educatoraz@yahoo.com, and you can pay us through that. All right, our meeting and topic schedule for the next couple of months. Today, of course, we have the Mike and Carolyn Show, file management, story, and backups. April, again, John had something come up, rather unexpected. He intended to be here. He will not be. So this should be the Mike and Barry Show. Barry has promised he'll be here for that one. And we'll be talking about social media, being aware of the changing landscape. And I certainly hope that Barry is here because I am not especially strong on social media. I'm aware of it. I'm on a lot of it. I don't actually use it that much for a number of reasons that we could talk about then. And in May, this is one that John's been looking forward to. Do you need to carry a physical wallet online shopping and payments. Digital wallets are becoming more and more of a thing. Of course, we have Apple Wallet or Apple Pay and Apple Wallet on your iPhone. This is something to be aware of. When Caroline and I were traveling this past year up in Seattle, we came across a 4-pay parking lot, and the only payment it took was digital. I had to use the Apple Pay. The only other option was to go to a website on a device and enter a credit card there. And so because I do have Apple Pay set up, I've never used it, that turned out to be very convenient. Actually, I just got a notification this month from another credit card that I carry that bank has now got their own digital wallet set up. And they went ahead and set up a digital wallet for me. And they'd say, hey, this here's a free benefit. And so now in that banking app on my iPhone, I have another digital wallet with that credit card set in. So I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that. So that's going to be an important topic to discuss. Note that as right now, both of those meetings will be in G106, which is the room down the hallway, the other room that we tend to use. I will caution that this tends to be subject to change with very little notice. We do get occasionally, we try to set up with the college several months in advance, but we occasionally get the notification from them that something else has come up and they need the room we're in, and they'll move us to the other one. I will say they've been very good about accommodating us. That we have not yet had it where they said, we can't find a place for you. But just be aware. But as far as we know for right now, we're in the G106 classroom for the next couple of meetings. Okay, timely tech topics. Things that are happening that you didn't know you wanted to hear. I was wondering if the music could transfer with this. It did not. Okay, here's a few things that have been happening. Something that happened last week, Apple canceled their Project Titan, which was launched in 2015. Project Titan was their foray into creating a self-driving car. And they have decided that after some $10 billion in research, that is not going where they wanted to. There's a lot of conjecture in the tech columnist space as to what may have happened. Part of it may be just that when Apple started this, they were pretty adamant that they wanted to create a truly self-driving car. No controls, no steering wheel. You would go in, tell Siri where you wanted to go, and it would take you. And they may have realized that is really not going to happen in the foreseeable future. Also, they may have realized that aside from overcoming the technical challenges, there may not be enough profit margin in them for it. Apple tends to go into a new space and create a new paradigm, and they may not have been able to do it with this one. So we will not be seeing an Apple self-driving car in the near future, unfortunately. Elon Musk sues OpenAI, which I found very interesting. I actually read the Elon Musk biography by Walter Isaacson, and Elon Musk was a founder of OpenAI. He is the one who funded it when it was a nonprofit. The reason he did was because he was very concerned about the direction AI could take. He is actually a big believer in the possibility of Skynet, that AI could take things over and things would be bad for humans. So he created OpenAI to do the research to create an AI that is open source and that is for the benefit of mankind and not for enriching corporations. Well, he left OpenAI, and after that, they realized that they didn't really have a means of funding. So in order to do that, they split into two parts. One was the nonprofit OpenAI section, and the other was a for-profit, where they would lease out their abilities. And Microsoft took OpenAI up on that. Microsoft has invested several billions of dollars into OpenAI, and they use that in their Copilot. And that is what Elon Musk is suing for. The OpenAI has changed from his vision of a nonprofit to benefit mankind to something that will benefit Microsoft, which is exactly what he did not want to happen. Now, it's going to be interesting to see where this happens in court because, first of all, he may not go anywhere. The court may rule he doesn't have standing. He's not associated with OpenAI anymore. And also, no one's ever really tried to enforce this is what we said we would do in our charter. So don't know where that's going to go, but it'll be entertaining to watch in any rate. And the third big thing that I happened across, Google takes down Gemini AI. Gemini is Google's attempt at an AI. It was Bard at the beginning. They changed it to Gemini. And one of the things it was supposed to be able to do was you could give it a prompt, and much like the Midjourney and those other ones, you give it a prompt and it would create an image, a picture. And people started doing things like, well, the biggest example was, show me a picture of a Nazi from 1942. And it would generate pictures of black people, Native American people, women, all sorts of things that were probably not Nazis in 1942. It looked like they weighted heavily in their images on towards minority races. Matter of fact, one of the things people noted was that if you said, give me an image of an African-American person, it would do that with no problem. If you told it, give me an image of a white person, you would get a lecture on racism. So after that happened for a day or so, they realized, yeah, we kind of screwed up on the way that we weighted how this thing works. And they took it down for revamping. So, and we could get into a lot of discussion about the pros, cons, and I know Carolyn and I have had a lot of talks about where this kind of thing could go in the future and the pros and cons on that. But that's going to be interesting to see what they come up with. And they're just the first ones, I think, to face the challenges of bias in their algorithms. Because quite frankly, you can't avoid bias because being human, we are biased. And those are going to be reflected in the stuff that we program. So anybody have any questions or comments at this point?
Had the question, what is Elon Musk doing AI for? Sure.
Yeah, Elon Musk actually created, or he funded OpenAI. He founded it and gave it $10 million because he's an idealist. Elon Musk is convinced that the world is going to go to hell in a handbasket, and he's the only one who could prevent it. That's why he actually started Tesla, is because he's believed that electric vehicles are the only answer to the carbon footprint problem. But OpenAI, he's convinced that unregulated AI will destroy mankind eventually. So OpenAI was his attempt to put a beneficial spin on it, if you would. So, and now it's actually in effect. They're still independent, but really they're kind of working for Microsoft, and that's what he's really not happy with.
Oh, so it's about Microsoft. It's about who they partner.
I think it is. I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah. Sure.
When you Google question to Google, filter the AI, the AI issue, which non-demo.
Yeah, it's coming from Google. I don't know if that's actually coming from Gemini or not. For all I know, it may be coming from what they called Bard, which was the first iteration. I get the impression that Gemini is been focused more on doing images like Midjourney did. They may still be using Bard just for the tech stuff like that, just as an enhancement to the search engine. Other comments? All right, let's see what else we got. Share a tip or favorite app. And I realized after I had this up there, I hope nobody asks anything about iOS or macOS because that is not my thing. But Barry did put up, or John put up, that iOS 17.4 just came out this past Wednesday, the latest iOS update, which I noticed my phone did go ahead and update. Don't have anything for macOS. Windows, I just wanted to mention Copilot. That is Microsoft's iteration of AI that they're incorporating into their products. They actually incorporated Copilot into Office 365 a couple of months back so that you can actually tell Word, write me a letter that does this other thing. It's starting to roll out now on Windows more. I'm going to go out of this for a second. It is a random upgrade. Most Windows 11 systems received a preview version some time back, and you could tell because there was an icon for it over here on my left side of the screen, right in this area. Now, supposedly, you're getting a full version rolled out, and no one knows when any one person will actually get that. They're rolling out fairly at random. I got it. I could tell because now my Copilot icon is over here on the extreme right. And if I go to that, it just says, hi, Here's the things I can do for you. Still says it's still a preview version. And it has an example prompt here that I can use. Create an anime avatar of a girl with Totoro. I have no idea what that means. And use the style of anime. Okay, Totoro, I guess, would be a manga thing. And then down here we have Ask Me Anything. So we have AI now directly built into Windows. I have not really used it much myself. I probably am not going too much. On general principles, I dislike using AI for writing.
That lower right hand.
Yeah, lower right-hand corner. One thing that some people mentioned that they didn't like, you may not have realized it, but down here on the extreme edge, there was actually a very thin black line that if you double-clicked on it, it would show your desktop. It would actually close everything. Putting this Copilot over here actually got rid of that, which most people didn't notice. I'd forgotten about it, that it was there, because there wasn't much of a visual indication. But it actually wrote over that little show desktop icon, and some people were not happy about that. Oh, so life goes on. All right. Questions and answers. We did have a question that came up at the beginning of the meeting. It is the fact that, and it's a good one too, because I really don't know much about what's going on. Cox announced that their email infrastructure is going to be moved to Yahoo. Yahoo Mail will be taking over for Cox. I don't think we're actually going to see much in the way of change. I think it's going to be basically on the back end. I don't know. Yes, that is legitimate when you get the email from Cox that says we're moving to Yahoo. Caveat, I saw the first email about that in 2019. So this has been something that's been in the works for a long time, and I think they got stuck on it somewhere or another. But yeah, they send out an email every now and again that says, yes, we're doing this, yes, they're doing this. But after all these years, we still haven't actually seen anything happen. So what's going to be the impact to you? I don't know. I can't tell you. Sir?
Coffee. Last year, it's truly, you get talking about talk that on hot net, but the other person that make any sense, man.
Oh, those are phishing emails. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, we see a lot of that too, where you'll get phishing emails where if you hover over the actual name, it may see it's coming from Cox.net, but you look at it. The one I get a kick out of is when you hover over it, it's actually coming from a Gmail account somewhere, and usually with some nonsense name over it. Yes, be aware of phishing emails. You can't really trust where it says it's coming from. You have to do those little steps we've taken before to check out the provenance of a message that you get and make sure that it's legitimate. Rule of thumb, remember, just don't click on any links in any email. If you get an email that looks like it might be legitimate, go up to the website by typing in the address into the browser and go check it out that way. Maureen.
Two things. You're in town. Where would one go place their last protocol?
Amy? There is a place called Assyrian that is, by Little Caesars, yes.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why come?
Because they're the one I know about.
I think know about it. There used to be another computer place.
There was.
They decided it's like something.
Well, the Batteries Plus changed to, did they change to iFixit?
No, it's not in the Batteries Plus.
No, but the I don't know. Yeah, but that's the Batteries Plus people changed. Yeah, they were over by Papa Murphy's and over by the Friends of the Bookstore. And you're right. There was another outfit in town.
I remember it's like one word like Palominas, and I can't remember.
I'm thinking like it was like something like Monsoon Winds Computer Shop or something like that. Monsoon. Right. They may be. I don't know.
They had a good reputation.
They did.
Just haven't needed anything in so long.
They did. We'll have to Google for that.
I called Best Buy about it, and they said they do it.
Sure.
That was the Tucson phone number that answered.
Right.
So I don't know really. Okay, so
Yeah.
I wanted to fix my device to get a battery, and the battery rates did not change. Just two of the guys that work there opened up their own business. The way the guy described
Okay.
how was it?
it, I was happy. I mean, he knew what he was talking about.
I will say I wanted to into Assyrian. One thing about Assyrian is it is a franchise, so it's not as likely to disappear. Monsoon, they're an independent, so I don't know what issues they may have had, or if, as far as I know, they're still there. And actually, I would recommend them because I'm a big fan of the independents.
Yeah.
But Assyrian is a franchise, so they're more likely to stay around a while. But I will say I actually went into Assyrian to check about getting a new battery on my iPhone 6. And the guy told me, well, I could replace it for you. It'll take a couple days. You'll have to leave your phone here, and it'll cost $100. So he said, but your iPhone is already out of support for Apple. You'd probably be better off just getting another iPhone, which is exactly the excuse I needed to give Carolyn in order to upgrade. So,
Yeah. You know, I have that phone as well. Mine's a 7. But there was nothing wrong with my phone before I dropped it. It's just aging.
and that's exactly what Carolyn feels, is that she likes the form factor. Yeah, she likes the form factor of the 7.
I like the size.
Right.
Everything was working fine.
It's not,
I even tried to find an SE. They're a little smaller.
Right.
And okay, so anyway.
Okay.
Next. And it's I set in a website
Okay.
and I go through HostGator and WordPress.
Okay.
So I got basic, hatchling plan, basic plan, because I don't know what I'm going to need. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. And here's where the question lies, is I began to notice, and I started writing down all of the security-related things that are being suggested that I purchase in order to, keep my, if I have payment being done on like thing, how to protect my visitors' information, how to protect the site, how to protect. And I was wondering, is there like a one-shot thing that covers the multitude of security issues, or does it have to be a nickel and dime?
That would be up to the company, the way they're setting it up. I find this interesting because I'm probably going to be going through much of the same thing myself. I have 3 websites, and I had them posted on Squarespace. Haven't used them for years. I intend to start one up again. And I got a thing from Squarespace saying, oh, you need to go in and change your DNS stuff because we're changing things. And I went in and looked, and
Is DNS name server?
yeah, domain name server. And as it turned out, to change things on my old accounts, because I've had them for like 15 years, I'm on old software, and it would have just been so much hassle to change it over. I said, I don't need Squarespace anymore. I don't need what they do. They've changed from the time I started using them into more of a business-oriented thing. So I canceled my Squarespace accounts, and I intend to start up one of them again.
Which means you dropped your websites and kept your domains?
I kept the domains. I dropped the website hosting. I've been looking at GoDaddy because I'm registered through them. So I was thinking, well, maybe I should just host them as well. Oh, and one interesting thing is I have at least one domain name that GoDaddy says if I put it up on the market, they estimate it's worth $2,300. I'm going, really?
Giggle.
Carolyn's old domain that she doesn't use anymore. Really? Oh, so we might do that. So I'm actually going to be looking at much the same thing that you are as far as that goes. That would depend on the company that's doing the hosting. I suspect that most of them probably like to do the one thing at a time.
Right now, and that's what I'm wondering is, does somebody offer different hosting? I mean, I could cancel the whole gig, cancel the domain, I don't know what I can and can't do without penalty. But that's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? I have to do each of these separate. That means all separate passwords, all separate
Okay, I'm not sure what they're asking you to do then, because it should all be under your one account, under one password.
Okay.
Because the only...
I didn't really go there because I was like, I started writing down as I looked at the website. I just started writing down all the different places in plugins that they were recommending security related things.
The only thing I was aware of that they were offering back in the day when I was looking at this stuff would be to put an anonymous entry into the Whois database so that spammers couldn't actually get your contact information out of it. That's one of them. That I would recommend, because scrubbing the Whois database is a place that scammers would grab contact information to send out phishing emails.
And if you're not published yet, are you still in there?
No, if you're not published, that just means that you have not put your website out to the world yet.
But I mean, is that information still available? How would they know to find it?
Well, if you've registered the domain, then yes, that would be in the Whois database.
Yeah. So it's already started.
It's already started. If you use that option, then they will put in their own information, saying that this website is registered through HostGator. And then if you want to contact the person, contact us, and then we'll put you in contact. So that's just to keep the scammers from scraping the Whois database, which is a open database, widely available to anybody. So
I guess
that's the big thing. I don't know what else that they'd be offering for security offhand.
For the client.
Yeah, for the client.
For my information, for the client, but they're and they're separate and not the same. At least right now, but there with site security also. Protect your site.
And I don't know.
So this is where I just went, oh, you're kidding.
Yes. And this is where you might want to get with John and perhaps put together some screenshots. Show him exactly what you're talking about. And
I'm in the midst of it right now.
Yeah.
So
take some screenshots, send it off to John or Barry, and or me, and I'll take a look at it, and we'll see what we come up with. Like I said, this is stuff I'm going to be looking at myself, more than likely. Sir,
one other thing, the paper,
yes,
house, copy that album breath.
right. Oh yes, I did. Okay, the question is, or the comment is, that there is a new fiber company, a new internet service provider coming to Sierra Vista between the next year to 2 years, perhaps. It is called Allo, A-L-L-O. I actually became interested in this because the week before the announcement went out, there was a truck back in my alley doing some trenching with the fiber optic cable reel on it. I was like, I wonder what that's about. So Allo is out of the Midwest. They've expanded out through the West. They currently offer internet service to Kingman, Arizona, and a couple of other towns in Arizona. Yuma? Okay, that's the other one. Their thing is they offer fiber optic to the premises. That means fiber optic that comes up to your house, which is something that for many years people thought would not be cost effective to do. And it's that last few yards to get from the alley to the house, which is where the bandwidth crunch is. If they bring fiber, and they say the fiber that they offer is up to 2.4 gigabit per second, they bring that up to the house, it is a game changer for everybody. That is a fast speed, and there'll be no bottlenecks. It'll be straight from your system into their system. So looking forward to it. If you go to the Allo website, you can sign up for a mailing list. I signed up for it. I have not gotten anything from them yet on that. Yes, sir.
Right. Also, Google Allo review out of 1,000 people that curse, all sorts of things. 1,000 people on there, the people that are this south, right? Some breed it. Love it.
Of course, if you're fat, dumb, and happy, you're not going to complain about it or tell anybody about it. The one thing I did notice was I looked at their pricing, and their pricing for their top tier of internet, I won't say prices, but I pay right now for Cox's top tier that's available in this area, and their top tier is only $20 more than that. So it looks like they're competitive in this market if you need that kind of broadband. Oh, the other big thing about it is they offer a symmetrical service. Here's what that means. Most internet connections are asymmetrical. That means that they assume that you're going to be downloading more information than you're uploading. So, for example, my current ISP connection is, I think, 300 megabits downstream coming down to me from the cloud, and I can only upload, I think it's 100 megabits per second upload. They offer asymmetrical, which means it's, if you got the full tier, 2.6 gig down, 2.6 gig up, which makes me wonder if they're, in order to get anything close to that in other internet providers, you have to have a business account. Makes me wonder how they're going to handle that, or if they're happy with home people actually running a web server out of their home. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how all that works out.
About personal running.
Well, you're setting up a website. Theoretically, you're perfectly welcome to put up a computer in your home, make it into a web server, and host your site yourself. The thing is, whoever's doing you for an internet connection, or if you're doing a residential account, they're not going to be happy with that, because that means you're going to be using a lot of bandwidth, assuming that you have any traffic. So if you do that, they'll probably notice and then ask you to go to a business account, which would give you more of that. So the last I saw is the earliest that they're actually going to start up in Sierra Vista. They're trenching now, apparently. I've heard rumors of other trucks being around trenching. Sometime this fall, we might start seeing an offering. I don't know. We'll see. Other questions? Comments? Good stuff. Oh, one thing I will put out is I mentioned last month about pig butchering. Pig butchering is an internet scam. The reason that I noticed this in particular is because we know somebody who is going into what we think is an internet scam. We can't talk this person out of believing it's not a scam. And one of the answers we got from her was, well, this has got to be real. Scammers would never put in the time and the money to actually fool this. Scammers are just in for the fast money and then out. Pig butchering is the kind of scam where the scammers will spend months or sometimes years setting up a situation where you trust them. They're your best friends. They will do anything for you. They're willing to put in the time and the money to make you believe that they have your best interest in mind. And the target of all this is when they take you, they're going to take you for everything they got, hopefully several hundreds of thousands of dollars. People who have fallen for pig butchering scams have sold their houses to give money to these people. There are a couple of resources that I put up on the Google groups. One was the last week, the question and answer period over at U of A South from the gentleman that talked about cybersecurity scams. By the way, there's also a link up there that one of our members put up for a Zoom of that session, so that's available. And
it's all about scams.
It's all about scamming and social media. Yeah. And the other one thing I put up was an article about pig butchering in particular. And John Oliver on his show Last Week Tonight, I provided a link to the YouTube video of that. He goes and talks about pig butchering in detail. And the scary thing is, one of the victims was a manager of a small bank in the Midwest that was taken for $47 million. The bank had to close, which is really disturbing that they really didn't have anything between the guy running the bank and all the money where he could actually do that on his own. That's really scary. So, but yeah, so be aware of that. I would also caution, be aware of romance schemes. I had a friend that was convinced that this beautiful young girl was falling in love with him. You got to bear in mind, my friend was my age, my shape. I tried to tell him, why would this beautiful young thing want to be settling for a fat, retired farmer in Iowa? And the thing was, they had set something up where he invested a couple $1,000s in it, and he'd gotten back $3,000. He said, that proves it's real. Good. No, that's called beating the hook. They're setting you up. I don't know what happened to him. I wound up, he got mad at me. I got mad at him. So we wound up not talking. And I actually didn't want to see the plane crash happen. So I don't know. I wish him the best. But yeah, watch out for that kind of thing. My whole thing has always been, I got this from my grandpa, who was a sheriff during the Depression. Be anybody's best friend. Be open to anybody. Right up until they start talking about, you need to give me money. Right then, every shield should go up saying, no, there's something wrong here. People should not normally ask other people for money, unless they're family. And then even then, I'd be really careful about it. Fonzie. All right. Other comments, questions, good stuff. Yes, ma'am.
A couple of months ago, I turned on my PC, and my desktop looked totally different. The icons all were large, sort of bubbles, and that's a consequence. Some of the icons are missing. I don't know if it's something I did or if it changed in Windows. And is there any way I can get that whole screen back with smaller icons?
Yes, absolutely. Are you running Windows 10 or Windows 11? Do you know? Okay, good, because I am too. What happened was the screen resolution changed on your monitor. So I'm going to break out of this for a second.
If I have that Windows 10,
Not really. It might be a little bit different. It's just easier because I'm actually running this. Let's see. Okay, if you right-click on the desktop and go to Display Settings, and down under Resolution, Display Resolution will allow you to change that. For example, you'll see right now I'm set at 1280 by 800. My monitor changed that automatically to match the projector. This is not normally what I run under, because I did the same thing. I started up my computer, I connected the projector, and my icons went everywhere. Yeah, you normally run under 2496 by 1664 on this monitor. Right, because right now, see, my icons are huge, and they're usually all piled up on the side here. This actually changed them around in order to fit them all on the screen. I normally don't have them on the bottom like this. So yeah, these icons are huge compared to the way they usually look. So that's the thing, if you change it, and hopefully it'll actually say on there when you look at that setting what the recommended resolution is for your monitor. I just changed it to that, and it should do it. And it's hard to say what may have changed it. Like I said, this one changed automatically when I hooked into the projector. It's hard to say. I've done it accidentally a couple times before myself. So
To start on the web with the what would that be under? If you said
under Windows 11?
No, 10.
Okay. Same general principle. What you're going to look for is the settings gear shift. Yeah. Look for that and then open that up.
Not control.
Control panel will have it too.
So you're just looking for display.
You're looking for display. Yeah, under Windows 11, it's under System, and then it's under Display. So, other questions, comments? All righty. Oh, and we are coming up on 10 o'clock. Time to take a break. And the question was asked during break about cookies, about how we have that banner at the end of websites we've never visited before that say, we use cookies. Do you want to accept? Do you want to customize? Okay, here's the thing with cookies. Cookies actually started way back when because websites, the way website traffic works, is what we call stateless. Whenever you're talking to a website, it's a bunch of small requests. Fetch this page from the web server. Okay, done. Fetch this text from the web server. Okay, done. Fetch the same text again. Okay, done. There's no memory. There's no way of knowing what you've done before. It didn't take long before engineers figured out it would be really handy if we had some way to keep a memory of what's going on with the website. And that's where cookies came in. Cookies were instituted as just a way to remember things you'd done on our website before. That lets us do things like keep your login information so you don't have to log in every possible time. Keep a shopping cart. So if you go up to a website, you shop, you put something in the shopping cart, you leave. If you come back, it's still going to be in your shopping cart. Things like this. It remembers what you've done. Okay. And then it didn't take very long for people to figure out ways to use that to actually track your information. They drop a cookie on your computer, and then if you went to another website that's affiliated with the people that did that, they'd be able to tell, hey, he's got a cookie. He was over at this other website. Now he's at this website. And eventually they'd be able to use that to figure out what your interests are so they can sell you ads or show you ads. Okay, all that. And we've actually done a whole section on cookies before. All that's said and done is, are cookies good or bad? Well, they're neutral. I'm not that worried about cookies anymore. So they do keep track of what's going on, but really, there's so many other ways to keep track of us now that I really kind of think it's inconsequential. You're being watched if you're up on the web anyway. There's another way that they do it called beacons, which is on a website, it is a 1-pixel image, and that beacon tracks that you're on the website. It's not a cookie, but it's still a way of tracking you. So, and there's no way that you could tell that it's there without using specialized software to tell you about it.
So how do I benefit from cookies?
It keeps track of what you've done on the website so that if you go back to the website, you don't have to start over. You don't have to log in again. It knows what you've seen. It may, depending on how they're using it, it may know what you may want to be looking for. The search engines are really good for this. Of course, they don't just use cookies. They actually upload your search inquiries into the cloud. The whole thing about the banners that say we use cookies, our Congress creators passed a law that they thought it would be a good idea at the time that people need to know and have the option to use cookies or not. So they passed a law that says every time you go to a website, they have to tell you, we use cookies. Well, guess what? If they use cookies, guess what? Everybody uses cookies. So all they did was add another banner that says, yes, accept, yes, accept. Now, if you choose not to accept, you'll often get the option to customize. That'll just take you into the settings in your computer where you can accept all cookies, or you can accept just first-party cookies and deny third-party cookies. Third-party cookies are the ones that advertisers tend to put on there that will track where you're going on the website. First-party cookies are the cookies that the website itself puts on there to keep track of what you're doing. General rule of thumb is first-party cookies are good, third-party cookies are bad. I accept all of them for the simple reason a lot of websites just don't work well if you start blocking cookies, even the third parties. So all depends on your experience. Unfortunately, sounds like I've probably surrendered to the surveillance that's out there, and I basically have. They have so many different ways of tracking you now that if you spend any time on the internet, chances are I've been on the internet since, well, let's put it this way. Back when I was working on Post, I remember when this guy came up and he was really kind of annoyed. He says, I've been playing with this new program called Mozilla, and everybody wants to know how to use it. And he was playing with the very first web browser. And that's how far back we go playing with this. Actually, I was playing around with Gopher and Archie, the protocols that came before the web, where it allowed you to go find files. FTP, File Transfer Protocol, would allow you to go find stuff. So yeah, actually, I go back to 1986 with CompuServe. God help us all.
So simply put, cookies are breadcrumbs going both directions. Cookies are breadcrumbs for me to make my experience easier.
Cookies are something that the website puts on there to make life easier for both you and them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For them, it's a breadcrumb trail for them to make my experience more specific and to see what I do.
There. Yes. Quite often. Where they came up with the name cookies, it's kind of interesting if you Google for that. People have come up with all sorts of retro explanations. I always thought that it was basically came from, engineers have a weird sense of humor. I think it always just came from the thought of, a little girl, you want a cookie? So that's where it came from. We're going to offer you something and we may take something in return. Other comments or questions before we get going again? All right, we are back. Today's topics, file management, file storage, and file backups. This may or may not be pretty quick, depending on the level of discussion. I'm keeping this pretty high level myself, unless I go off and get into war stories, which is always possible. Like I said, this is a perennial topic. I know we noticed that Barry and I did this about a year ago. So let's see, file management. I actually dug up some of my old lectures when I was at the college here, and I had the beginning students. I always like to start off with computers and the office analogy, because people that do computers, we are not original. We are going to borrow concepts that have gone before, from before computers, and we did that when we came up with the graphical user interface. How do we explain to people how this stuff works? Well, in a traditional workplace, you have the desktop, a place to do your work, a place to spread out your papers. Files were simply paper documents. Folders were just that, manila folders that you could use to organize your files. You would put files with some commonality into a folder. And then a file cabinet was just a storage area for those folders. Again, it was another organizational method. By the way, did you know that the modern file cabinet was invented in 1896? And that was the beginning of the modern office? Before that, it was simply books of ledgers. Yeah, Carol.
Did you know that the largest file cabinet rock? It's really, it went to file cabinet, some welded on the structure Burlington.
And we get that from Carolyn because she and I are Route 66 fanatics, and an offshoot of that is we tend to find the world's largest items as on our road trips around the country. And yes, we have been to the world's largest ball of Sisal twine in Kansas. We've also been to the middle of the geographic United States, also in Kansas, not too far away. Somebody has to do it. And tell them, well, and there's also the giant fork in Springfield, Missouri. Anyway.
I was at a meeting where some planners and leaders, except we're talking, that they are considering putting the largest word in the world. Just to get more tourists.
And that's how so many of them start. They're just tourist attractions. I love it. Oh, if you're in Catoosa, Oklahoma, make sure you check out the giant blue whale. All right. Yes, if you want to know about Route 66, ask me after. All right. So, continuing the computers in the office analogy. So, on a computer, a desktop is still a place to do work. This is the desktop. A file is an electronic copy of both documents and programs. We refer to both the documents that we create and the software that we use to create them with. We call them both files. Folders on a computer are actually directories. They do the same thing that anything else does. We use them to organize files, and they may contain subdirectories. And you notice that most GUIs, we actually carry that metaphor all the way out. You'll see a picture of a folder when you are actually using a directory. File cabinets, well, they could be small temporary storage areas like thumb drives, or a large permanent storage area like a hard drive. These are what you use to store your files in. All right, questions so far? I didn't think so. All right. Two types of files, program files or executables, and data files. Data files are the ones we're usually interested in. File management is the process of creating, naming, organizing, storing, and retrieving data files. And this is a lot easier than it used to be, as so much of this is done automatically for us. Now, Mac OS and Windows, they differ in the details, but the basic operations for all this are the same. Because essentially, it all derives from Unix. Unix was one of the early operating systems that where they came up with a lot of this, and both Mac and disk operating system DOS both derived from Unix. Creating a file is pretty easy. When you open up an application like Word or Excel, a blank file is automatically created when you open it up, and is assigned a default name that you can change at any time. And since I use Windows, you're going to be seeing examples from Windows. Mac is very similar. Okay, here's an example. Here is Word. This is from Word 365. I also use Microsoft OneDrive So this is the version you get when you're tied into the OneDrive. I have autosave turned off by default. The reason I do is because I found it annoying to have autosave on by default, because if I do, you'll notice that on this document, I automatically create document 1. If you have autosave on by default, it will then save document 1 on the OneDrive. I open up another new file, it will save document 2 on the OneDrive. It doesn't give you the option to do a save as before you actually start doing anything, which I found annoying. So I turned autosave off so that I can go ahead and rename document 1 to something appropriate, then I'll turn autosave on. Yeah.
You love that it close the document? Does it just pop up? How do you see?
No. It just says if you go with document 1, it's going to save it as document 1.
If you close it,
yeah.
If I click to close it, does it ask me if I can payment or anything?
Nope. Okay. There are many things I find highly annoying about the way they've instituted Microsoft OneDrive and Office 365. Microsoft has had a bad habit for 30 years that it works really well if you do things the way their engineers expect you to do things. If you try to do your own method, then it gets really annoying. I know this because I've been using Windows since before Windows. I was using just DOS, and I developed my own way of doing things, and trying to get Windows to do it my way can be annoying. I've since found that, yeah, if you just do it the way they want, it actually works a lot better. But that means I have to change the way I do things. Same the reason I have a real hard time with Mac OS, because Mac OS is the same thing. I have to do ways the way they expect me to do it, and my ways are generally way different from that. So I find Mac OS very difficult to use because of that. If you don't have any experience with it, and it's your first operating system, you're good. You're fine, and it works great for the beginner user. So does Windows. Works great for the beginner user. Those of us who have been around for a while, sometimes we're ready to throw our desktops out through the window. Anyway, so the way that this one's working, you see the little icon of the floppy disk, which I wonder when they're going to change that, because floppy disks haven't been around for a while. So I can actually save manually that way by clicking on that. But as far as this is concerned, right now, I open it up, I have document 1. And until I manually go in, and I go in by clicking on File, and then that'll take me to it's no longer save as, it's called save a copy. And I can rename it at that point. And then I can drive on from there. I'll turn on autosave, and that it works there. I'm a big believer in autosave, by the way. When you use autosave, then it will never ask you, do you want to save this? It does it all the time while you're working on it, which is good. Okay, file naming. You should give your file a unique descriptive name and save it. File names may be up to 255 characters. Don't get crazy. When they first instituted that 255 word limit, okay, those of us who've been around for a long time remember when file names were restricted to 8 characters, a period, and then 3 characters, the extension. That was because the extension was actually the file type. It would tell us what kind of file it is. They still have those. It's just we normally don't see them because the applications will track that stuff for us. But oh my gosh, the first time they lifted up the restriction where you could put 255 file names, I worked with a guy up on Post that he would name his files as a descriptive paragraph, and which worked well for him until you got a lot of files. Then you couldn't find anything. You have to sit there and actually read through what everything was. So, don't get crazy. A few words, couple words is sufficient. And here's the screenshot off of my drive where I can actually go ahead and change the file name. I got here by clicking on the file in the Word document. You see it still says that it's document 1. I've got to save as. Oh, I guess it is save as, not save a copy. I guess they changed that again. And here I can not only give it another name, but I can tell it where I want to save it. By default, because I am hooked into OneDrive, it wants to save everything on OneDrive. I can also tell it I can put it on this PC, or I can just browse and put it wherever I like. So I can put it on other drives, I can put it locally. Again, Mac OS has something similar. I'm not sure of the details on it, though. Questions? All righty. File storage. Remember where you save your files. My beginning students, this is where we ran into trouble because my students were convinced they knew how to run a computer because they used Facebook. By golly, I am computer literate. I can use Facebook. I'd say, great. Open up a file, save it, name it, save it. Say, great. Okay, where's your file? I don't know. So how do you get it back? Well, I click up here where it says recent files, and I click on it. Okay, that only has the 5 most recent files. What if you've done other files and you don't, it's not there anymore? Oh, well, then I just make a new file with that name. Says, no. I could not get across to them. You've got to remember where you save your files. Now, most programs have a default save location anyway. Windows programs generally are going to save it in the Documents folder. That's where they want to put everything. Mac OS doesn't have a default save location from what I was able to tell doing a little bit of research. Basically, you'll tell where it's going to go. Now, programs themselves may have a default save location. But generally be aware of where they're putting the stuff. And I will have a horror story about OneDrive because of that. OneDrive is a mixed blessing. I love it, I hate it. File retrieval. This is why you need to remember where you saved your files at. Most programs, like I just said, they'll have a pick list of your most recent files for your convenience. Actually, with the OneDrive stuff now, it's more than just recent, the most recent ones. It is a long list of like 20 documents before it drops it. Now, otherwise, you need to navigate to where the files are saved using Mac Finder or Windows File Explorer and select to open them. I will say that computer search has gotten a lot better so that if I want to launch a program, I don't know where it is, I really don't care. I'll type the name of the program into the Windows search box, and I can launch it that way. So the search has gotten a lot better for doing that kind of thing. In many ways, we don't need to know where the files are as much as we used to. It's still a good idea. It's still annoying when you lost it and you can't find it again. File storage. Your main storage device is the hard drive on your computer or device. We're talking computers or laptops, maybe a magnetic disk drive or a solid-state drive. We're starting to see more and more solid-state drives. They're getting larger and the price is dropping. Solid-state drives work better in many ways. They're not as vulnerable to like shaking as magnetic disk drives are because they're solid-state, no moving parts. The thing about solid-state drives is they do have a limited life due to the number of writes. You can do an unlimited number of retrievals, but they're usually limited to a number of writes. I'm not sure what the current limit is. It used to be like 100,000 writes, where more than most people would do it. Nowadays, where they're larger, they're being used for permanent storage. I don't know what the limit may be now. It would depend on the manufacturer. Size may vary from a few gigabytes to several terabytes. I have at home an external storage drive that is 8 terabytes. I have my main computer at home was a new one I got last year, and I put in a 4 terabyte solid-state drive. I figured that ought to give me another 10 years, I hope. Okay. The hard drive on a Windows computer is usually the C drive, but it can be renamed. Okay. This is where my students would always ask, why is it the C drive? Very simple. In computer history, Intel computers, when they first put in a drive, which was a 6-inch drive, floppy disk, the very first floppy disk drive they put in, we borrowed this from operating system called CPM. They named their drives just using the alphabet. The first drive was the A drive. So that was the first floppy drive in a computer. Then when we started getting fancy, we put in 2 floppy drives so you could actually switch floppies back and forth. That became the B drive. Then we came in with hard drives, and we put it in. First hard drive was the C drive, and it went from there. C drive now is just kind of traditional because people were used to it. If you plug in any other drive in now, it's just going to grab another letter of the alphabet. Usually it's sequential, sometimes not. Or you can actually create a virtual drive and give it the letter you want. I have a network drive at home that I call the Z drive because I knew that I wouldn't run into it with anything else. Mac OS doesn't make things that interesting. They just use a text name. I was looking at a screenshot I had of an old Macintosh, and it just said Macintosh HD. They're not nearly as much fun. Hey, Carolyn.
And the other reason that they drive, before they get sidetracked, you have to your pop-up with system drives. They would always have that in the gate drive, because after it, and then you put your data drive into the B drive. And it's well, my sister, father-in-law were king, so they always saw when they take this first computer, it becomes like 16 or 17 years ago, and they said, never, ever, ever, always format the drive before you use it. And more times than not, it was always formatting the system drive. So my brother-in-law had to keep finally figured out that there's a way that you first flip the switch, and then you couldn't format the system. But whatever, I think the little or long.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that walk down memory lane. I was just remembering when I was in the Army, I was on a team where we deployed one of the first computer systems on post. And oh my gosh, trying to train users who are looking through manuals and stuff and looking at neat commands and trying to explain to them why you do not want to actually type in format C, which is a bad thing. Okay. You can have multiple storage drives nowadays installed in your computer, and you can use external drives. Intel computers, these usually connect through a USB port, and they can be several terabytes in size. Like I said, I have one that's 8 terabytes in size, which hopefully will get me for a while. Thumb drives or jump drives are generally used to easily move files from one computer to another without a network connection. We're not seeing these as much anymore because of our networking. We're connected by network a lot more than we were. But one thing I wanted to caution you about, thumb drives are not recommended for permanent storage. One thing is thumb drives, of all the solid-state drives, they had the lowest number of writes possible. But even so, all the thumb drives I've had, I've never had one wear out that way. Instead, it always just physically fell apart. You put it in and out enough times, because when I taught here, I had all my classes on my thumb drives, so I was probably putting in and out of computers like a dozen times a day. And after about a year of that, the thing would just disintegrate. It'd just fall apart in your hand. It'd come apart. So another reason I would not recognize thumb drives for permanent storage, I had a student here, great guy, and he had an organizational method that really worked well for him. He had a thumb drive wallet, something about 6 inches high, 3 inches deep. It had pockets in it for a couple of dozen thumb drives probably. And the way he was organized, he had a thumb drive for every class. All of his information for each class was on the thumb drive. He'd go to class, take that thumb drive, put it in, do all his work on it. It was great. It worked fantastic until the time he walked into class and he looked really depressed. I said, "What happened?" He said, "I lost my wallet." I said, "Okay, so you got backups, right?" He said, "No." Says, "What are you going to do? Start over?" So, yeah, that's another downside of that. We'll talk about backups here in a little bit. Network attached storage. We've talked about this a little bit in the group before. NAS drives are connected to the network instead of connecting directly to a computer. It's a box just like any of the rest of them, usually about 6 inches high, 3 inches wide. But instead of actually connecting to a USB port, it connects usually into your router, your network router or a network switch. And usually then it is, in this day and age, they're wireless to all your other devices. So we have a NAS drive at work that we've had, or at home. We've had it for a long time. And with that, I can get to the files that are on it from my desktop computer, my laptop computer. Carolyn can get to the same files on her laptop computer. It just makes it very easy for us to coordinate files that the both of us use together. They're accessible by anyone on the local network. Not too worried about security because people would have to get inside of our local network to get to them. Now, a lot of NAS drives, though, can be configured so that you can actually access them remotely over the internet. So if I was to do this, if I'm traveling, I would be able to actually reach back to my NAS drive and pull information off of it if I wanted to. I don't do that. I played with it once when we first got it. I actually did a demonstration for the user group back then. Personally, I don't have a need for it, so I never turned on that capability. So That just was another way to prevent a hacker from happening to come across it and trying to break into it. Actually, the NAS drive I have now is old enough that it has been deprecated. The network or the internet remote capability no longer works. Western Digital says if you actually want the capability, you have to buy another drive now. And they did offer me a discount, though, for 10%. I never needed that capability, so I don't worry about it. So I just use the local NAS part, and it works fine. Questions? All righty. Told you this is going to go fast. Cloud storage. What is the cloud? All the cloud is storage that's provided by computer networking companies. Your data is stored on a remote data center rather than or in addition to your local storage. It could just be a backup. We just call it a cloud because it's like a cloud in the sky. We know it's there. We don't really care how it works. We don't know physically where it's located at. We trust them at their word that they're going to safeguard our data for us. Some of the more common ones is Apple has iCloud, Microsoft has OneDrive, and Alphabet, the company formerly known as Google, has Google Drive. These are some of the more common ones for cloud storage. Cloud storage is one of the solutions for doing backups that actually works pretty well. There are I'm missing some of here, I think. Either that or one out of place. Yeah. There are also third-party backup companies like Dropbox that will allow you to, for a fee, to back up your files to their systems, their clouds, which has its own ways. Actually, I think it's the next slide. File backups. Backing up files means having it stored in more than one place in case a storage drive malfunction or in case you lose your thumb drive. General rule of thumb, I've always heard, have a minimum of 3 copies of files that you can't live without. Quite frankly, there's not many files I can't live without. Most people would say photos, the family photos. You'll want to have those in all sorts of places because those have the most meaning to a lot of folks. At least one backup should be physically distant from the other backups. It doesn't help if you've got 3 backups in your computer office and your house burns down. You probably want one physically distant. That's where cloud backups work nicely. It used to be a rule of thumb. You could put a backup on your thumb drive. I know what I said about permanent storage, but this is a little different. Put one on your thumb drive and then put it in a safe deposit box. With cloud drives, you don't really need to do that as much as you did. Besides, try to find a safe deposit box nowadays. One bank in town that I know of. Okay, there are several strategies for backing up your files. You can just copy files from one drive to another, drag them over and drop them. The convenience of this is it doesn't require any special software, and you can easily access either copy at any time you want. Or you can use system backup software. Apple Time Machine and Windows File History will both save files as you work on them. They'll create backups as you work on another drive. That makes things work a lot easier. There are other backup storage solutions like the old Windows backup, which still works. But the thing about using backup solutions like that is it actually takes all the files you're backing up and compresses them into a single file, which means in order to restore them, you have to use that same software to get it back. These other methods, you don't have that compression. Of course, it does take up much storage space. If you want to back up 10 gigabytes of files using Apple Time Machine, Windows File History, you're going to need 10 gigabits of space. Actually, even more than that, because File History also does versioning. It keeps several versions back so that if you blow something up, you can go back and get an older version of it. How far back? I couldn't tell you. I think it just goes back as far as you got disk space. Which reminds me, I need to check my external drive and make sure it's not filling up. Or you can use cloud storage backups like iCloud and OneDrive. Both do that. Now, one thing I will caution you about Microsoft OneDrive that I don't like. Microsoft is marketing this as a backup solution. It's really not. OneDrive is a drive or a computer synchronization service, really. It has, up on OneDrive, there is one document folder. I found out the hard way that when I turn on OneDrive to all my computers, what it happily does is it takes all the files from each of my computers, which remember, I'm an old guy. I had different methods of organization on each laptop. OneDrive took every document I had in the document folder and threw them all up into that single document folder, and then turned around and synchronized them all. So I have all the same content on every computer. Again, if you do things the way Microsoft expects you to, it works really well. My problem is I had things like, on my desktop, I had shortcuts that created programs. Those shortcuts then got taken and distributed to all my computers, which means if I have 4 computers, it's not going to work on 3 of them because the program itself is still on that other computer. And if I try to run it on one of the other computers, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. So it kind of got messed up, and I still need to go back and clean all that up and make sure that it's synchronized in a way that I can live with. Because otherwise, if you understand that it's actually doing file synchronization, that's great, but it's not just doing backup. That said, it is a great way to work because I'm going to have backups of files on all my systems. Now, I do have control over OneDrive. I could tell it, back up this folder, don't back up that folder. But if you do it by defaults, if you're not expecting it and you've been using computers for a while, you're going to get a surprise. So just requires a little bit of thought to go into it. That really confused a lot of people when OneDrive first initiated this, and people were like, where are my files going? And when they first created this, what they really did was they moved all the files up into the cloud. And then if you wanted them, you click on it and bring it back down to your system. And we actually had an icon. Actually, I have it here. There's actually an icon right here. It says, where are my files? That was created by OneDrive when I first turned this on to let me know your files have been moved up to the cloud. So they stopped doing that from what I've been able to tell. Now it will copy your files instead of moving them, which is what it should have done in the first place. What I found highly annoying was I had games that I've been playing. I'm a game player. And I had games that had been saved in their default locations in the document folder. And they were copied up to the OneDrive. And I tried to play the game, and it said, can't find save. Which, until I realized what was going on, I found really annoying. So, questions about doing backups? Yes, sir.
I know a comment. I get to cloud photos. And it's gotten me to think about one that the notion cloud is because somewhere else you're on it. Security, all they did. Are really hard to bracket that they use something like server farm, even their own their large storage.
That would be up to each company, and they don't really get into details about that. But yeah, I think we can safely assume that they're backing everything up on a pretty regular basis, one way or the other. Now, clouds may not be completely secure. There was something a couple weeks back where Google lost some small portion of their users, lost a bunch of their emails, I understand. Something glitched. And for some reason, the backups didn't work. So, again, use more than one place to back up. But yeah, they're usually pretty good about backing up their stuff, their backups. But even so, sometimes stuff happens.
We're goes back to with out. See, we'll go like request that they were saying every Easter, very personal stuff. All yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's easy. That agency that be there, get rid of goods in a place where it depend on information being stored somewhere where it's all ways. Electricity, just as a simple thing. On the server part, next decade, this boy can't AI.
Yeah, I read the same article. Yeah.
Yeah, then it's kind of like where there isn't any reason to feel some the kind of assurance and we have that whole.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because right now we like to think that data is going to be saved forever. And actually, much like, 90% of all the movies that are created before 1950 are gone. I have a feeling that the same thing's going to be happening digitally, that we're going to go into a digital arc age where so much information that has been generated just is not available. A lot of it was never put on the general internet, and as companies fold, their stuff just goes away. So, yeah, we're going to lose a lot of stuff. And you bring up a good point about, I read the article that we're really going to be in for an electricity crunch over the next decade. More and more data centers with thousands of computers in each one are coming online, and they're already straining the grid. And you add into that electronic vehicles, what they're going to add in there, we're not going to have much juice to do all this. So are we going to start seeing outages, and can the server farms stay up? That's a good point. We'll see what happens. Again, keep more than one backup in one place. This is one reason, by the way, I support the Internet Archive, because they do their best to actually back up the Internet and save as much information as possible. So I have a monthly donation going to them to help them out with that. So they can save that, at least the stuff that's public domain. They also just went through or in the process of going through a large lawsuit from publishers, because they had been scanning and saving several documents, and some copyright holders saying, no, that's not fair use. So that's been working its way through the courts as well. So I give them money once a month just to keep the mission up. Here's where I put it. The third-party backup services that you can use: Dropbox, Backblaze, Carbonite, and many others. A lot of these, you got to bear in mind that the way that they work, it's not like you just tell them, okay, back up my stuff, and they do it instantly. Usually the way it works is they'll put a little app on your system once you sign up for their service. And when your system isn't really being used much, in the background, it'll start uploading stuff slowly. So it may take several days for your stuff to be backed up there. Then when you want it back, you have to contact them, and they'll arrange for some method for you to download it. Usually the downloading may be just as slow as the uploading. I know some of them, if you really lose everything and need it back fast, then they'll arrange to actually email you or mail you a thumb drive with your information on it. So bear in mind that there are limitations to using those services, but it is an option. Wow, and that is as far as I went. Questions and discussion, folks. What else do you want to talk about with this or with anything? I got done a lot earlier than I thought I would. Yes. It's a party. We got pie. All right, folks. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And we will see you next month for our social media extravaganza, which I have no idea what me and Barry are going to do about that. But we'll figure it out. It'll be social, one way or the other. All right. Thank you, folks.
It is awarded successful.
I'll let you know in a minute.
Good question. I hope so for you, though. It's
That.